so that I know who all are there with me. So please, all of you, say a hi. ये क्या हो रहा है? दुर्गा को एडमिट कर रहा हूँ लेकिन एडमिट नहीं हो रहा है. Hello, hello, hi, hi. Great. So there are a few of you there with me. Good. Let us continue the stories that I have been discussing with you guys. So I am spending this session to talk more about stories. So I hope you don't mind listening to these stories, because I just want to kind of put it across through various these research, and then we will talk about some of the rules and regulations to conduct the research. Okay, the Stanford prison experiment. This was another very controversial prison experiment again, that conducted, which had a lot of repercussions. Say, this was a person called Philip Zimbardo. Philip Zimbardo is a very famous psychologist, from Stanford University. Now he wanted to understand uh, how authority and power affect human behavior. Authority and power affects human behavior. He also wanted to understand, given a particular role, how soon an individual starts behaving that role. So I assign somebody a particular role in the organization. How soon, how fast that person can associate himself and become that person. So those are the kind of research that he wanted to study. So he wanted to, he wanted to do the whole research as a prison experiment. So he wanted to understand, in a prison scenario, there is power, there is authority, and there is roles given. So the student volunteers. He took volunteers from the students. Some of them volunteered to become the prisoners. Some of them volunteered to become the guards. So the whole experiment is about the dynamics between the prisoners and the guards. Now, all these members of the research, they're all students in a university in his psychology class, and he had kind of taken precaution before conducting research. There was a lot of psychological evaluation of all the so-called members who participated in the research. Everything was so only normal, healthy mind people were selected for the research. So what happened? So the research was supposed to be happening for about 15 days. That was the duration the research was supposed to be happening. Uh, However, after about 6 days, they had to abandon the research. Now, what happened to make the whole research very, very dramatic? So, on the appointed day, uh, early morning, the local police went to the houses of these people who volunteered to become the what do you call prisoners. Literally arrested these people in front of the whole community. They were brought to the basement of the university. They were kept in a prison, and the guards immediately got into the role of behaving like a guard. And they had this idea that guards are supposed to be doing these thing. So they stripped naked all these people, and then frisked them, made them do a lot of activities. Uh, that humiliates the prisoners, because the understanding was that unless and until you break the mind of the prisoner, they will not listen to you. So the guards immediately started doing it, and then prisoners then immediately started rebelling. How can you make us do these things? So the guards then started using force. They had weapons, batons, etc. Started beating them. So The whole atmosphere from the very go was very violent, very uh, kind of something that the prisoners would never, or they had never imagined they are going to be subjected to such terrible behaviors by their own friends. So, and on the fifth day or so, the girlfriend of Mr. Zimbardo, because at some point of time, Zimbardo was also part of the research, and people said, "Should I go? This is not right." Then Zimbardo gave them a go ahead, and the whole process continued. So on fifth or sixth day, the girlfriend of Zimbardo came to visit the experiment, how it is going, etc. And then she really felt the horrific things that is happening in the this so-called experiment prison. So she immediately ordered the closure of the whole process. So she went to the university, said this project has to be scrapped immediately, and then they had to wind up the entire process research within about 6 days. So from Zimbardo's perspective, from researchers perspective, this research was a huge success. Yeah, huge success. However, the negative impact of this research, the study caused emotional trauma to participants, particularly those assigned to us prisoners. Some of the volunteers who became prisoners, they went into a mental trauma. It took almost 18, 19 years for those people to literally come out of that trauma. They were perfectly healthy people. After 5 days of research, they literally became mad. They had to be treated in mental asylum. That's the kind of harm the research inflicted on the subjects of the people. So consent was taken, everything was taken. In spite of that, there was harm done. So lack of intervention. Zimbardo, acting as a researcher and the prison superintendent, failed to stop the abuse in time. Coercion and lack of withdrawal was another thing. So in a research, a participant at any point of time feel that I want to withdraw, he has the he should have the freedom to do that. In this, they were trapped. They could not get out of that prison. So this was after this research, that clause was added to the law, that the right to withdraw from a research at any point of time. And of course, it became a big case. The federal court ruled that such kind of research cannot be conducted anymore, etc. Of course, Zimbardo was not punished because it was approved research, etc. Nobody expected that research would take such kind of an angle at the end of the day. So this is another research that happened, very positive, had a lot of positive impact on organizational behavior and how leader member relationship is defined in a workplace, etc. However, look at the negative consequence of the research. um, this was another research that happened which has got something to do with India. So at some point of time, we had a few multinational companies working in India. They were studying, researching, etc. There is this one particular company called Monsanto. Monsanto is one of the biggest seed company in the world. Another similar company is called Cargill. Cargill and Monsanto are the biggest seed companies in the world, and they were operating and they were working in some parts in India. Many farmers, the seeds today, all these genetically modified seed and all those things are 90% owned by these two companies between them. Now, in India, we talk about neem, basmati, turmeric, etc. These are typical Indian agricultural product, and the origin of these Ayurvedic products are actually India. So we have been researching on it. We have been using this for making medicines, etc., for centuries together. Now, all of a sudden, this particular company, without Indians knowing, patented neem, basmati, and turmeric. Perfect. They were doing research, and as part of their research, they patented the product. and that then Indian companies, Indian government, none of the Indian had a right to do any research. So a company like some Sun Pharma or something want to do a research on neem, you cannot do it because it is patented by this Monsanto company in the US. Like the case that I was telling about first, the Haga High situation. Instead of patenting the people, here they patented these three bioproducts. Very critical, extremely essential for the person's life. So, and then in fact, we felt that it is very not right, so we filed a case in the International Court of Justice. So they said there is cultural exploitation because Indian farmers and activists argued that the patent was an example of biopiracy, as it sought to profit from traditional knowledge without giving credit or compensation to the communities that had used this for centuries together. So now Monsanto will have complete control on neem and various other such kind of research, and all the medicinal products they will have the 100% control over it. So Vico Vajradanti will go out of the market. Vico, whatever the various products that Vico comes out with, all will go out of the market because Monsanto has got the absolute control on the product. And then there was a huge global protest. So they said patent drew international criticism, particularly from Indian environmental activists like Vandana Shiva. They argued that the patent system was being used to appropriate traditional knowledge from developing countries and monopolize it for corporate gain by the multinational companies and developed nation. And of course, then there was a case in the International Court of Justice and European Patent Office, etc. Um, then this led to strengthening of biopiracy laws, empower local communities, protecting traditional knowledge, etc. This happened as a result of this. So, for about 10 to 15 years, Indian government and United Nations fought for the patent of these products to get back to India. And finally, about 10 years ago, I think 10, 15 years ago, government of India got the patents back, which means Monsanto had to relent and kind of withdraw the patent, and then they patented something called, instead of basmati they patented something called texmati, and they have other neem and turmeric they had to withdraw. So finally India has the authority on these products, and of course these are the products no company can patent. It became a rule today. So any company wants to do a research and come out with a product using these products can be done today in India. So again, how a research can have a lot of negative impacts on the people, on the society, etc. Now, if you look at during the Second World War, that was a time when a large number of medical research happened. Medical, psychological research happened during the Second World War period. And this happened because any medicine, if it has to come to the market, it needs what they call human experimentation. Without human experimentation, companies are not allowed to release the products into the market. Now, Second World War, concentration camps, war prisoners, and war prisoners did not have any rights per se. So, lot of these pharma companies associated themselves with these gas chambers, and then they started conducting research on the war prisoners because they didn't have right. So many millions of people died in these experiments alone. They didn't even had to go to the gas chambers. Even before they went to the gas chambers, they were already dead because medicinal. They did not need a guinea pig now. They did not need a rat today or rabbit today to experiment on. They could directly experiment on human being. So many, and the end result was path-breaking medicinal research, a lot of new medicine, life-saving medicine, etc. Fantastic, isn't it? However, what cost? Millions of people were exploited, killed, died in the process of developing medicines. So, from one perspective, when we look at utilitarian perspective, when we look at it, created utility, it created profit for pharma companies, it created new medicines for the rest of the world to have a good life, healthy life, etc. From that perspective, fantastic output, fantastic research, correct? And at the same time, look at the cost of it. At what cost? So, uh, there was these very famous Nazi experiment that was conducted. Freezing experiment conducted to study the hypothermia and survival strategies for German soldiers. So German soldiers who goes into the war, they wanted to know how much a German soldier can survive. So instead of putting the German soldier, they conducted this research on the human endurance on the prisoners, war prisoners. So victims were immersed in freezing water or left exposed to freezing temperatures, and their reactions were studied, and that became the basis on which the endurance of a soldier was measured, and decided to send them to the front of the war. So many died or suffered long-term health effects, etc. So this was one of the experiment that conducted during the Second World War. Why I'm saying Second World War? Because this led to the first of what you call research ethics document ever created. Second was twin experiments. So there was this very famous doctor called Joseph Mengele. Mengele is one of those. He was also called the angel of death because he killed millions of people, and he used to study these twins. So during the World War, he identified all those twins who were captured and put in the prison. So they identified all these twins and they conducted experiments on twins. So they included blood transfusion between twins, amputation. So we wanted to know if one twin's leg is amputated, what will happen to the other twin, etc., etc. Injecting chemicals into their eyes to try to change eye color of the persons. So very inhuman kind of research conducted by Wegley. High altitude experiments was another one. Then they also talk about sterilization and genetic experiments on the Nazis, on people, on women, etc. At the same time, Japan also conducted a lot of research on their war prisoners. So, biological warfare, released plague infected fleas in Chinese cities causing deadly outbreaks. So, and then they tested medicines for anthrax, cholera, typhoid, etc. So that they wanted to first they infected people with these kind of diseases, and then they tested medicines for those things. So, vivisections performed live dissections on prisoners without anesthesia to study the effect of diseases and battlefield injuries on the human body, and also to understand the endurance capability of the prisoners. So frostbite studies, weapon testings. These are all studies conducted on prisoners. So during the Second World War, they did it. So U.S. and allied countries, what they did. So we looked at Germans. They did a lot of negative things. Japan, they did. What U.S. did, and the Europeans did, conducted on US soldiers, the mustard gas experiment to study the effect of chemical weapons on the people. So participants were often unaware of the risks and suffered severe burns. It's like, mustard gas were sprayed onto the people. So again, without any consent of the participants, they did not have any rights to object in the first place. Radiation experiments, early studies on radiation exposure, partly to understand its effect for nuclear weapons development, involved exposing individuals to harmful levels of radiation without their informed consent. So these are all things that the Allied what do you call party did it. So atrocities of World War II medical experiments led. It's not just medical experiment. Also, they also did a lot of behavioral studies. Um, I don't know. Have you seen? There is a very beautiful movie. If you get a chance, you should watch. The name of the movie, I think, is Life is um, Life is Beautiful. It's a comedy kind of movie, but very serious, very strong message given on the Second World War. Life is Beautiful. Best, very good movie. So this researches all these World War, the after effect or afterthoughts of Second World War experiments led to the whole concept of informed consent, establishing of the international ethical guidelines like Declaration of Helsinki, etc., increased global awareness of the importance of protecting human rights in research. So these were the kind of um, end result of a lot of these research that has happened. So from Second World War, a number of things has happened. A number of protocols, number of code of conducts, how to conduct research emerged in the world. One of the first one was called Nuremberg Code, 1947. Second was the Declaration of Helsinki. So, based on the Nuremberg Code, they had a meeting in a place called Helsinki, and then they came out with a new set of guidelines for research, and then subsequently many other kind of research protocols that uh, is used by various organizations when they talk about how to conduct research, etc. So National Research Act 1974, the Belmont Report 1979, DPDP, GDPR in EU, UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence that is came in 2023. Again, US Common Rule revised in 2018. UK Research Integrity Conduct Concordat that is in 2023. All these things started, kind of codified how the research should happen. So I would request all of you to go and spend a little more time understanding each of these. So let's look at major kind of contribution of some of these global perspective or global rule codes of conduct to conduct research. So Nuremberg Code was one of the first one, 1947. Immediately after Second World War, they realized that what happened during the Second World War, whether it is in Germany, Japan, or in the USA or among the Allied countries, the way they treated prisoners was something that it should never happen. So the whole concept of rights of a prisoner, a war criminals or war prisoners, you cannot treat them as a murderer. So there are certain privileges, there are certain rights to a war criminal. You are not supposed to do certain things to a war criminal. So the whole rights of war criminals, how what should not be done, what should be done, etc., was clearly defined in the Nuremberg Code. So it emerged out of what they call the Nuremberg Military Tribunal, that was what they call looking into the various crimes committed during the Second World War. Primary focus of the Nuremberg Code was on human experimentation. The prisoners who did not have rights, they were made guinea pigs in both psychological and and medical science research. So some of the major output of these Nuremberg Code was voluntary informed consent to become part of any research, avoidance of unnecessary sufferings during the research, right to withdraw at any point of time, scientific necessity. Is it necessary for doing that particular research? Is it absolutely essential? And still you need to ensure that it should not hurt people. So that's how the Nuremberg Code came into, and these were some of the major outcome of Nuremberg uh, Code of Conduct. Declaration of Helsinki happened in 1964, and it was again revised multiple times and latest in 2024. Uh, that this was developed by World Medical Association (WMA), and again involving medical research involving humans. So Helsinki Declaration is about um, medical research involving human. So today, every research which has got a medical research angle to it or medical data is being used, Helsinki Declaration is applicable. Participant welfare, informed consent, ethics committee approval, risk benefit assessment, vulnerable population, how to treat these vulnerable population, etc., are something that is discussed under the Helsinki Declaration. Belmont report in 1979 talked about human subjects research, respect for persons, beneficence. So beneficence means any research should create positive impact, not negative impact. Maleficence is the negative impact. So any research that is creating a maleficence. So if you look at the Second World War research, every one of those research had maleficence, which means it killed people. It made people fight against each other. It made people turn, children turn against parents. All those things has happened. Then CIOMS, International Ethical Guidance, Council for International Organizations of Medical Science. Then they talked about informed consent, community engagement, fair participant selection, benefit sharing, protection of vulnerable groups, etc. Because what it meant by fair participant selection, oftentimes what happened in many of the medical research science medical science research, the participants in those research, they often come from a vulnerable community, or let's say somebody who does not have enough money, or somebody is suffering from illness. So you kind of exploit the vulnerable situation of the person to lure that person into a research scenario. So if you look at most of these uh, International Code of Conduct on Research has something to do with bio and medical research, because the human research, management research, social science research, they still have not discussed a lot on that. And I think it's Singapore statement on research integrity is where probably first time they are talking about human or the social science research, and there is a how ethics plays an important field. Until that time, social science researchers was not governed by any international national rule as to how to do it. So for example, for a management student like me, when I did my PhD, I did not need to take an internal ethics committee consent for my questionnaire before I administered that questionnaire. But today, any researcher, management, social science, economists, etc., not only the medical doctors who are conducting PhD, every one of us, if we are going to collect data from people, I don't know how many of you are going to collect data from people through a survey. If you are going to collect data from people from survey, there is an internal institutional ethics committee, IEC. You need to take their permission. Without that, you're not allowed to complete your conduct your data collection. Is there anybody in this group that is going to collect primary data from respondents through survey or any of those things, or are all of you going to use secondary data sets? Yep,
Sir, I am going to collect the data.
you will be collecting Tripti. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so you would need to take permission from the institutional ethics committee.
yeah, yeah. Yes, yes.
So you will
Right.
be you will be told about that one later. So I will be discussing on the whole process, how to go about apply, what documents required and all those things. I'll be telling you. So real time data, when you are collecting from your response. Say for example, one of my students, he is doing a research on the impact of social media. Uh, you know. OTT platforms and how they are impacted by Gen Zs, etc. So uh, promotion using OTT and its impact on Gen Z. That is the research. So he collected data from about 900 sample, both from India and abroad. So before he conducted, he had to actually take the permission from the IEC. That's an important factor. Real time data needs to be collected for doing the research. Okay, good. So a few other research again that came into Montreal Statement on Research Integrity, Cross-Boundary Research Collaboration, again international collaborative research. It is again going beyond the medical, including the social science research as well. So transparency, responsibility, communication, authorship, data sharing. So this is a general research guideline for researchers. Hong Kong Principle 2020 talks about reward responsible research practices, transparency, reproducibility, open science, etc. started. So since 2010 onwards, people started discussing research in general. Until 2010, as I said, most such kind of international collaborations, all these things were talking more about medical science, because that is more important. They thought that medical science directly involving people, and every medicine has to have a human trial to be done. So because of the human trial, they had to be more strict, and any kind of misuse or any kind of violations can lead to internationally, it's a huge problem. So therefore all those laws that came into today, the most important guideline for our research is given by COPE, or what they call Committee on Publication Ethics. So there is a website maintained by COPE. Now they talk about plagiarism, authorship, conflict of interest, peer reviews, retractions, etc. And uh, COPE is an active organization that actively retracts papers. They conduct research on research papers, and COPE is that organization. I'm going to spend an entire day on COPE. Okay, so I will be spending less time now. COPE, COPE, and WAME. and IEEE. These are the three areas. So WAMA, World Medical Association, WMA, for medical research, what they talk about is very important. For social science researches, whether it is management or any descriptive kind of research, COPE is um, mm, the place where to go to understand. For information technology research, mostly it is IEEE that has given as guidelines. So we are going to spend a little more on these two, COPE and IEEE. We may not spend much time on WAMA because we are not directly anybody doing on medical imageries or medical related research as part of this. Anyone? एथनोग्राफी सर्वे इन कंप्यूटर साइंस क्या बात कर रहे हैं मोहम्मद आर यू डूइंग एन एथनोग्राफिक स्टडी ethnographic study requires the permission as it is going to be directly collecting from people because the methodology, the question, the process, you need to take permission from the I Institutional Ethics Committee (IEC). It is an essential today. Without that, you are not allowed to collect data. So I assume nobody is doing medical related data analysis as part of it. And the last one is OECD, recommendation on responsible innovation. It talks about anticipation of impacts, stakeholder engagement in the research process and publication process, transparency of the data and collection process, data analysis, etc. Accountability, if something happens, who is to take accountable? So all these that we have discussed so far has been the world global response to how to conduct good research, how to conduct ethical research, etc. Now, India also has developed a set of policies, etc. So, ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, national has come out with the national ethical guidelines for biomedical and healthcare health research. It was revised in 2023. That is one that talks about medical related, health related research, how to conduct and how not to conduct. Then there is a National Data Governance Framework Policy that was developed by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which is also called MeitY, Ministry of and what do you call Electronics and Information Technology. That's for us. That is very important. What that particular policy talks about it. That is the National Data Governance Framework Policy. Then we also have DPDP Act that came in 2023, both 2023. UGC promotion of academic integrity prevention, plagiarism regulations, etc. And in fact, UGC had used to come out with what they call a white list of journals. So they had made a list of journals which is called UGC Care List. For some reason, they realized that even that ran into a lot of problems, and they have withdrawn the UGC Care List today. So UGC has certain guidelines what to do and what not to do, but I'll spend one session on UGC's input into how to conduct research, etc. But that's very important. And then Department of Science and Technology is another area that has given a set of instructions to how to conduct scientific research. So from an Indian perspective, these are, and also from our perspective, when we look at National Data Governance Framework, DPDP Act, and DST Policy on Scientific Research Integrity. There are three very important documents as to how we should do our research, and UGC's promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism also has implications for our research. So keep this for in mind, and I have given a little more detail on what National Data Governance Framework Policy, or MATI 2023, is going to talk about. So I'm going to end today's session uh, with discussion on this particular framework, and maybe you can spend a little time during the week to understand various aspects this particular governance framework policy is going to talk about. So, and also DPDPA Act for research specific. DPDPA is a very big policy statement, and within that academic research, what are the suggestions, guidelines that you're talking about. So DPDPA is not specifically for academic research, it is more specifically for industry usage. So the purpose of this particular national data governance framework policy was to create a national framework for data governance to improve public service delivery, research, innovation, and AI development by enabling access to quality government database data sets. So government is going to create and provide data sets to people who are involved in various kind of development process. So whether it is for research, innovation, AI development, you need data, and quality data will be provided by this organization. So this is a place where you can actually go and get your data for your research. National Data Governance Framework. So this is the policy, and government also created what they call an huge database for helping people to conduct research. So the primary objective was to maximize the value of government data while ensuring privacy, security, transparency, and accountability. Because government creates huge amount of data, correct? They have data on crime, they have data on population, they have data on gender diversity, they have data on employment, they have data on illiteracy, literacy, huge data. No other organization has got that kind of data with them. So how to responsibly use the data, that's how they are trying to bring in the scope of this framework policy. Covers non-personalized personal data, anonymized. They have anonymized all these data. It is metadata and data sets held by government ministries, departments, and agencies. Personal data remains subject to India's data protection law. The target users who can use data: government departments, academic researchers, startups, MSMEs, AI developers, industry, and citizens can use this data. Expected outcome: better evidence based policy making, AI innovation, improved public services, increased transparency, etc. etc. So key features of the policy: the first is they created a database dataset platform. So government datasets, India datasets platform, IDP, that is one of the first thing they created. So you can actually get data from India dataset platform. Government datasets are catalogued. They are eligible users can discover datasets there. Access permissions are managed by a centralized agency. Metadata standards are maintained. High value datasets are shared for research and innovation with permissions, etc. Then the second feature is high value government data set. So health statistics, agricultural data, educational data, transportation, weather, environment, all these data is available with the India datasets platform. They standardize, there is a standardization of the data. The data quality is continuously improved year on year. Data security and privacy is maintained under the DPDP Act. Data sharing frameworks is created again under DPDP Act. We have AI and innovations. There is huge data that is required for AI innovation, and this is the place where you can get data for training AI innovations. And of course, it has got data governance office, and there's an officer in charge of it. The major purpose of all these effort is to create capacity or capacity building among the Indians. So the Indian society needs data for, creating entrepreneurship, to create business and activities, etc. And government is going to help us doing that, and that is where the India datasets platform coming into picture. And of course, at the end of the day, more patents, more research, more patent, more kind of economic value creation that happens in the process. Okay, so far so good, I suppose. So data quality, uh, some of the principles of this: ensure good quality data, ensure that data sets are accurate, complete, and reliable, because government data sets, there's always a question mark associated with. So this effort is to ensure to give us accurate, complete, and reliable data, and to protect the privacy of the individuals who are sharing the information through these various government activities. So there is anonymization and responsible data handling that is happening. Security of this data uh, through secure storages, sharing processes, and again, limited or restricted access to data, etc., provides better security. And of course, the whole process is transparent, both the collecting the data and sharing the data. So clearly document data sets, government processes, and access conditions to data, etc. There is accountability, there is interoperability, so enable different government systems to exchange and use data effectively. So oftentimes what happened in India, each department becomes silos, and it's very difficult for data from one department to get shared with another department, and many research require data from various departments to be coming into, and this particular platform enables inter departmental data to be used for same research without getting into all the nitty gritties of political bureaucratical structure. Accessibility, make eligible data sets discoverable and available to authorized users. And of course, there is a standardization of the data. So common metadata, formats, standardized formats, and government practices. There is a certain standardization that is being across departments. Now, one of the first departments used complete computerization was probably in Maharashtra, the stamps and registration department. So everything with regard to land registration, marriage registration, everything was automated. So there's a huge amount of data. Now there is a need for standardization of these, collecting the data across departments. So that is also happened. So there is a huge set of data available that we can actually use. So this particular initiative that Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, their that process of the framework that they created is going to help artificial intelligence by providing access to large high quality data sets for model development and validation, machine learning, support training and testing with standardized government data sets. It is going to help data science improve availability and consistency of data for analytics, etc. So it's going to create better, smarter cities, enable integration of transportation, utilities, environmental data sets, etc., etc. And of course, it is going to help in healthcare analytics, it is going to help in agricultural technology, it is going to improve cyber security, etc., etc. So huge government is talking about a lot of um, effort. They're going to take a lot. They are taking a lot of effort to help people to do better research. And I wish all the best to all of you guys, because government has promised that they are going to give us data. Now accessing this data is probably something you and your guide has to work with. So most of these recent laws that came out in India, a few things that you find common is the concept of informed consent. There should be explicit, revocable, and specific data. So when explicit, it should be written down, and revocable, which means that any participant in your research at any point of time wants to quit the research, they can quit, and should be specific. There should not be any ambiguity in what you write in your informed consent. So the informed consent is one of the form that is required for getting IEC certification from SIU. Then data protection, secure storage and use lawful processing of the data, transparency and accountability for researchers and institutions, integrity and reproducibility, no fabrication, falsification, plagiarism. So there are very strict rules about plagiarisms and similarities, etc. Equity and inclusion. So there should be nobody should be mm, discriminated against in the process of doing research. Uh, Oversight mechanisms. So IECs, IRB, institutional responsible behavior. Various committees are there. Data ethics committee, institutional integrity cells, at institutional level, at university level, at various levels. There's a lot of checks and balances that is being set in place. So the research ethics laws are very, very comprehensive. It's talking about every aspect of how to conduct or how not to conduct the research. All right, so that is what I wanted to discuss today. So we discussed quite a number of stories, number of cases of research, integrity violations, research ethics violations, etc. And then we looked into a few national and international conventions, protocols, frameworks, policies that is governing the how to conduct research, etc. So I'm going to talk about COPE and what do you call, and IEEE maybe during the next session. On coming Saturday, I'll be talking about that. I'll also talk about the concept of plagiarism, fabrication, etc., etc. So those are the things that we should avoid from a researcher's perspective. How duplication, what are various implications for research when we talk about computer science research, how we can kind of avoid the so-called mistakes that we might end up doing it. So that is what I wanted to discuss today. Hope it was not too boring. I don't know how many of you are really listening to me. As I was telling you, there is going to be a test in the coming session. Yes, Mohammed, you wanted to ask.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, I have a question. Suppose I want to conduct a field survey in a particular landscape in Western Himalayan region, just to know about how cryosphere changes or how land cover dynamics or glacial dynamics are affecting the indigenous communities and how their agricultural yield are decreasing. So,
Mm-hmm.
does this also need the permissions for
Yes.
this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you are going to collect data from the people, you will be collecting the
Mhm.
data in a survey, through a survey, no?
Mhm.
Are you going to conduct a participant observation or a survey research? Either of those
Sure.
require an IEC permission.
Which permission, sir?
Institutional Ethics Committee permission.
Okay.
So you have to, for you have, there are certain protocols, certain forms required. You need to have your proposal ready. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Along with your proposal, you also need the questionnaire. You also need
Mm-hmm.
informed consent, and then you need to also, there is an approval letter from your guide,
Okay.
the institution to which your
Mm-hmm.
guide is associated. So, with all these data forms, you need to apply to IEC,
Mm-hmm.
and then if there is a need, they will make you do a presentation. Otherwise,
Okay.
what they do is that they generally do an expedited process. They would read through and see that if there is no
Okay.
major ethical violation, they would give you permission. If they realize that
Okay.
there is some issue might happen, then they will ask you to give
Mm-hmm.
a presentation.
Okay, sir.
So that is the process.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other concern? Any other question anybody wants to ask? तुम लोग इतने अच्छे हैं ना, कोई सवाल नहीं पूछते यार. So there are a lot of, you see, the problem with all these things that you don't have one book where all these things are there. There are, they're all scattered in different places. You will get a little bit about Hawthorne and various other experiment in organizational behavior book, और HR बुक्स में मिल जाएगा. HR में भी नहीं, ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल बिहेवियर बुक में मिलेगा. स्टीवन रॉबिन्स बुक हैज गॉट जिम्बार्डो experiment, etc., Hawthorne experiment, etc. But again, as I said, there is no one place. So at this point of time, what I'll do is that I'll give you a set of readings for the ethics and ethical consideration. I'll also send you the links for the various rules and regulations, protocols where it is available. All right. Yes, Mangesh. Okay, since you don't have any other questions, I'm going to stop the session.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. See you again
Thanks.
next week.
Thank
Bye bye. Good day.
thank you, sir.